Is it officially all over now for Jadon Sancho at Manchester United? Because as we know, what has happened in this saga, this has happened. Ten Hag has thrown Sancho out of the first team and told him to train alone until further notice. Sancho put out something on social media, which has now been taken down. He deleted it, but he has refused to apologise to the manager, who Ten Hag hasn't been at all impressed by Sancho's training methods, if you like. His training methods. We'll get deeper into this in a second, but this was Jadon Sancho and what he said when he joined Manchester United from Borussia Dortmund.
Yeah, it's an honour, really. Growing up, Manchester was one of the biggest clubs that, that was known for, and obviously all the trophies they've won, and that's the iconic players that come before me. So, yeah, I'm happy to be wearing this jersey now.
How would you describe your character? What sort of person is this club getting in the dressing room?
Obviously, around the place it's going to be, serious on the pitch, definitely, and a bit of vibes, a bit of jokes here and there, but definitely when on the pitch, it's time to be serious.
What will he be like off the pitch? A bit of vibes. I'm not sure what I make of that. Yesterday, Manchester United released this very short statement. How telling was this, Karl? Jadon Sancho will remain on a personal training programme away from the first team group pending resolution of a squad discipline issue. Seems these days are numbered, doesn't it?
By what you hear, yes. I think as a manager, you've got four fundamental ways of maybe dealing with situations. One's the internal loving, the internal criticism, the external loving, and the external criticism. You try to do it all internal first and foremost, because nothing should ever really get out. And Man United have always been great at that under Sir Alex Ferguson. I'm sure the Arsenal team you played in would have been the same, would have been very internal, the criticism. If that doesn't work, then you might have to come out and show them some love, and then the final bit is this sense of criticism that's coming out now. For me, I think Man United have made a rod for their own back to an extent. I think when you look at the problems that they're having on the football pitch right now and some of the performances, the situation with players now having to, with things outside football, coming into the football club, he would have been a player that you would have looked to turn to influence games. But if he's not training right and he's not fit, he's not able to affect it, something has to be done about it. I don't know. We don't know exactly what's going on. I don't know whether Martin knows more or can enlighten me on that. But for me, from where I sit, I do worry right now, not just for them, but how they've dealt with an awful lot of the situations over the last 2 or 3 weeks with a lot of their players.
Well, this is it, Martin. I mean, as I said earlier, Sancho took to social media and then deleted it. I've had a message this morning from someone close that Ten Hag has no problem with players approaching him privately to discuss his decisions, but they cannot criticise him or the club or vent their frustrations in a public forum. Did Sancho make a mistake by going public?
You've got to follow this all the way from the beginning.
Ten Hag outed him.
Yes, but I mean, look, we talked about it last week, and I was talking about Ten Hag, and when he came to the club, I think he did brilliantly for the player. He took him out of the firing line, and he took him away to Holland to nurse him. There was talk of mental health issues. Okay, I'm not even sure we're allowed to talk about it, but there we are. That's what I believe it was. So he took him away. There was talk of injuries as well, and he nurtured him, came back, tried to get him back into the team. And I think at no real point have I ever seen this Sancho play with any directness, a determination. He doesn't strike me as being a player that, yes, an incredible talent. We saw him at Dortmund. He was just taking defences apart. But I've not seen it. So why is that? Is there a lack of motivation? There's a lack of desire. So the manager looks at it and thinks, right, okay, what I'm looking for in the week, I'm looking for a performance. When you come and work with me, this is how you're going to perform. This is the work ethic. First of all, you're going to be on time for training. If you're late, there's a problem. They're non-negotiables. Okay, that's how we behave. And this is about discipline. And there's a message for the group here, not just this player. This is really important. Okay, now is not an ideal time because the problems they've got with Greenwood's and Anthony's out. They need him in the team. But actually, what they also need to do is spread the message to the group of how you're behaving. And he's not working hard enough in training. He doesn't have the discipline. He's not respecting the group or the staff. So he's had to take him one step out. Now, this is a tough love for him, Jim, but he tried the other approach, tried to put his arm around him, and it doesn't seem to be happening. When I was a young player many years ago, Graeme Taylor said to me, when you come to a football club, make sure they're talking about you for years afterwards. Make sure that your photographs are up around the building. They're not going to be there for him because he's done nothing since he's been there. Whether he not, this is another manager not getting the best from him. You've got to get the best from himself. He should be holding his hand up, apologising to the manager. He got emotional. The manager has tried to wake him up, Jim. That's what this is about. And the player's not prepared to make an apology. I think he needs to be the bigger man. If I'm in his corner, I'm telling him, you go to the manager and you rescue your career.
That's quite scathing on Sancho.
I know, but I don't.
Take us to the 12 o'clock bulletin, Carl, and we'll return to it after it. But in a couple of sentences, where's your mind with it?
I don't agree with how he's done it, personally.
Who? Ten Hag?
Yeah. I think he's persevered with an awful lot of other players and hasn't publicly outed them. You look at some of the performance. You're saying you look.
I think he did though, Carl. You
Yeah,
think of
you're saying-
Ronaldo
you're saying
and
you're
the
looking
players. He
at
went
Sancho
after the big guys straight away.
Not players that he signed.
Finish your point.
But he signed players that have just been as bad for Manchester United this season, and sort of that gets pushed to his own personal players with the boys he brings in from Ajax.
Yeah, but they're working. They're giving everything for the
How
team.
do we know they are? We don't know what's going on at training ground daily.
But the manager is saying he's setting the tone, isn't he? He's setting the tone.
The
He's
tone
asking.
the tone is based by the results, and fundamentally, right now, the results haven't been good enough. And the performance, and we've been on this show after the Wolves game, and we were scathing over their performance on the first game of the season about the lack of effort that they showed on the day.
So, in a word, are you team Sancho?
Something's not right with him, so I'm not 100%.
Are you team Ten Hag?
I just feel now it's about discipline, and it's a bigger issue. And once it gets into the public domain, then the manager's always going to win this one.
Yeah.
Yes.
The player has to knuckle
Yeah.
down and play.
And this all started at Manchester United in recent days when Erik Ten Hag spoke and said, no, what Sancho is doing, or more importantly, not doing, annoys me. Have a listen.
Jadon was on his performance on the training. We didn't select him. You have to reach a level every day on Manchester United, and we can make choices in the front line. Yeah, and so for this game he wasn't selected.
So what he was doing in the training ground, or more importantly, what he wasn't doing, got to Ten Hag, and for that reason, Sancho dropped out of Ten Hag's thinking. Would Arsene Wenger ever have said anything like that, Martin, about a player?
No, probably not. Probably not.
Publicly?
Probably not, no. But as I say, I think Ten Hag maybe felt that this is a bit of tough love from him, and he's almost exhausted every avenue in the normal way that you would do to try to get a player to adhere to the work ethic that you're looking for to install at a football club. You know, you work in a certain way. I've not managed a football club. I did the Oxford University team for a couple of years. You want everyone on time. You want everybody to respect their colleagues, and to train to a certain level. And I think this is what we're talking about. So the manager really, he's hurting a little bit. He's just lost a game against Arsenal. He's been honest. He's probably thinking in terms of, how do I possibly help this player the most? And we're hearing as well this week, Jim, that there's not been a resolution between the player and the manager. So the manager's he's put his arm out to him to say, right, okay, do the right thing, and you come back into the fold. And obviously the player doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to apologise to the manager. And I don't think he's going to win that one, because the manager needs to prove to the group that everybody has to work to this level. Everybody has to toe the line. Otherwise, they don't represent Manchester United. That's the first. That's a given that I expect from my players every week.
Yeah, well, we know that Sancho then took to social media himself, contesting what Ten Hag had said shortly after that, Carl. And then Manchester United, curiously, released a one-line statement just yesterday. Jadon Sancho will remain on a personal training programme away from the first-team group pending resolution of a squad discipline issue. So obviously that's Ten Hag saying, no, he can't come back yet. Has a player ever questioned your authority?
Yeah.
Ever questioned what you've said?
Yeah, multiple times. I don't think you ever want players to play for you that don't think they can speak to you. There'd be times when I would have took that personally. There'd be times when I probably would have gone back in the wrong context when I was younger. I think the older you get, the more comfortable you get with you as a person. So just writing down here, when you do that though, when you publicly out somebody which he has, you need buy-in from your players first and foremost. It has to tactically be done. Because at the end of the day, they're playing multi-million pounds for this player to perform on the pitch on a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon, when it might be. And it's got to be tactically done in a way. You need to know when you do it that the players that are in that dressing room know you're doing it. There's buy-in, because then there's got to be a sense of when you say that, what player then goes to him first and go, right, come on, you now need to sort this out. we're here to support you. The manager said this, we'll let you back in, but we need you to do this. And it's almost like, it's not tit for tat in a way, but you do need that that ability to say things publicly, but with the strength of the group, of the team behind you. And we don't know what that team's like, that atmosphere in the dressing room's like. I was just thinking before, I remember I worked with Ian Wright for a long time. I think players are slightly different now, because he used to say to me, he always wanted to play against you on a Thursday and a Friday, and he always wanted David Seaman behind you. And he felt that because he knew you trained right, and he knew that if he got the better of you, which he said he did a few times,
not many,
right? That if you got the better of you and put it in the corner past Seaman, he knew he was playing against the best players in the Premier League Thursday, Friday, and he felt the Saturday became an easier.
Yeah, and I wanted to play against him
and
because
you want,
he was
so
one of the best.
I don't know whether that challenge, and again, I could be wrong, is really out there. The manager was never there to motivate an Ian Wright or a Martin Keown or David Seaman stopping at going to corners. It was almost that self-pride on a Monday through Friday that you had in your own training habits that allowed you to be the best you can possibly be at the weekend. Where I think now we have sports science who was saying no contact. I can't imagine you and Wrighty not having contact. They were saying that you got to do so much on your GPS, so you're pulling back a little bit. And I'm not too sure whether this data driven, what he's saying about training. Is it his view of his eye, or is it players internally within the football club come to as a manager saying, we don't want him anywhere near the group? And if that is the case, well, I back him for what he's done.
I mean, all the good managers I played with were very much in charge. We didn't really, they weren't influenced by us. And it was, if you create the right environment, then he's standing out like a sore thumb because he isn't towing the line. And this is probably, whether this is what he's doing, whether he's sulking a little bit, or he's trying to get that attention, it's not working. And I think I'm not condoning that the manager comes out and says this thing, but every now and again, Jim, as a little red flag or an emergency, I do think this is planned. I definitely think it's planned because
in what way?
Because they've tried over a lengthy period to try and get the best from this player.
Yeah,
they took him out to Holland, the manager's homestead, for people that he knew could love him and bring him back and nurture him, and then he's come back for a period and hasn't really sparked. His train hasn't got out of the station yet, Jim. This is an enormous talent, by the way, that we are not seeing the player at his best, and they've tried everything, so they're trying another way, and I'm praying it works for him, because I want to see people fulfill their potential, and it's good he's not doing that.
Pushing him out and getting him to train on his own, and even over in the Netherlands, not even here. Can that work against what Ten Hag is trying to achieve?
It can do if the player has a mental health issue where he just can't survive, he can't deal with it, he can't survive in that environment. But the manager is, it's a push and pull maybe for the manager, and he can always bring him back. But I think it's the player that has to make the first step to realise that he's out of order here.
He makes the first step by working hard and training.
Correct.
And you said before, he has the talent. A talent is a work ethic. That fundamentally underpins everything that you possess as a footballer.
But Karl, for a start, he's got to get to training. At Manchester City in 2017, it emerged he failed to turn up for training on several occasions, following Guardiola's decision to leave him out of the pre-season tour of the US. At Dortmund, he was dropped and he was fined over 86 grand by Dortmund after arriving late from international duty. England, he was late for a senior team meeting ahead of England's World Cup qualifier away to Andorra. Southgate made the England team wait for late players to arrive before he began his meeting. Now, I'm not being judge and jury, but at the same time, it's up to Sancho and his representatives to go back cap in hand to Ten Hag, isn't it?
Yeah, and I reiterate what I said before. Arguably, when he now comes back in, his work ethic should be judged first and foremost. And none of us see him train. And it's easy for big powerhouse football clubs to put things out there in the way that they do. They could be mixing things around to make it sound more positive on what he said to back the manager. I worry for this boy. I really do. I remember watching him in Dortmund, and I remember the hype that we had over this next talent and what he was going to be. And we haven't seen that yet. There's something fundamentally not right with him, and if we said this about Delhi not long ago, about it's almost that same situation where the talent doesn't match the output, and the output right now for him isn't good enough. But equally, the output for a lot of players at that football club isn't good enough right now.
Well, he went on social media, Karl, and contested what Ten Hag said about him. In your experience, when somebody does that, is there any way back?
Yeah, there has to be, because equally we're all, and you know, I say this every time we speak, that I do things that I have to look at myself and go, I was wrong there, and I'm looking for people to accept my apology. And I think there's a way back if there's a sense of transparency and honesty and a tinge of regret for what he's done. But arguably, the most... Yes,
but you bring him back, do you trust him again?
Well...
Fully?
If he looks you in the eye and says, yes, you have to. And then the eye of the fans will tell you whether that's right or not. Because one thing about football fans, the first thing they see and the first thing they judge is how hard you work for their team. And Man United fans are outstanding. They go up and down the country. They travel in fact, one of the biggest football clubs in the world, by the way. And they know what hard-working footballers look like. And they know what talent looks like more than most. And he, right now, doesn't possess that work ethic to support his talent. And unless that comes along, he's going to be seen as an ultimate failure.
Jim, at the moment, this is hurting the player now. Massively hurting the player, because he knows this weekend he probably would have been playing. But it's also hurting the manager. And it hurts the club.
Yeah.
Because Man United, if this was Sir Alex Ferguson, this is a crisis. It might not be for Ten Hag, because of the support he seems to have within the media. You're going to say, well, where have you seen that? Well, there's a feeling that Ten Hag's the right man for the job. But I don't know if I'm seeing that. Lost the last 2 away games. The last 2 home matches, they were 2-0 down to Forest. You could drive a bus through the team against Wolves. Is he the answer? But I tell you what he's going to do. He's going to stick to his values. And what they are is, you come to work and you give me everything. And at the moment, you're not doing that. And I'm with him on that. But it might cost him results. But ultimately, he's got to sort this group out. He's got to get the right atmosphere in the group.
How long do you think the fans give him? Because right now, they're in the midst of a problem where they have players that aren't available to play for different reasons. And that fundamentally will affect results. And how long will they be patient when results aren't great?
Well, this weekend, it's Brighton this weekend. You've got Fati coming in off the bench from Barcelona. You've got Don Kuzo, who was outstanding in midweek.
Yeah.
There's so many good players. Ferguson running right up top, probably the second best striker in the Premier League right now with Haaland. The winger out on the left-hand side, Japanese, it's just unbelievable. Every time he played against... I mean, how are they going to deal with that today? Well, if they don't have any balance this weekend against Brighton, they could lose at home as well.
In a couple of words, before we leave this topic, do you think Sancho will play for United again?
Jim, it's too early to say. It's now getting big for the boy. It's up to him to realise the error of his ways. He has to join the group, not them join him. He's the one who's got to go reach out to the manager and to the players to say, right, I've made a mistake.
You're nodding, but do you agree?
Yeah, I think he's right saying it's too early to say, but I think the big fundamental thing is that transparency and honesty, and then the eye will never lie on how hard you work. I think you'll see that, and the buy-in that the players have to. I think there's got to be an olive branch out from the players as well. Yeah. I get what you're saying.
Okay, Jadon Sancho, a Manchester United outcast for the time being.
Jim White and Simon Jordan, Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.